I had my light burn screen right in the middle of the way. Trying to monitor that for how this test job's going.
Yeah, it did be a little project earlier. I've been watching some videos, and it got me to thinking. So I did a little quick file and burned some wood. If I can get this GoPro to work. Well, hello everybody. I see 7 folks is in here. Maybe we'll have a few tonight. It's not quite as cool out here as it's been being.
Yeah, it's not so much the cold that gets me in the winter, it's the lack of sunlight.
Well, go outside.
Wait, it's dark. It's still dark. Give me more sunlight.
Yeah. But hello, Chicago. Chilly Tucson. Hello, Michael.
What constitutes chilly in Tucson this time of year?
They say it gets pretty cool up there at night.
Yeah?
Yep. That's what I hear. I've heard it does. I have been over Tucson, but we never touched down. So.
I've been in central and northern Arizona, never southern. Oh, he says they got down to 31 this morning. Okay, I'll give you that is chilly for Tucson, Arizona.
Yep. I will concur. That's chilly for here. I don't like it when it gets that cold either.
Well, we've enjoyed our warm first half of. So here's the weirdness we had here this week. I had a notification on my phone earlier in the week warning me of passing thunderstorms. And the radar was all green. Now, for early January, that really is concerning here in Minnesota.
Yeah. Well, hello there, Tennessee. Getting Alberta. Yeah, Alberta, I've heard it's cold up there. Yeah, it looks like the GoPro's not going to cooperate with me tonight, so I don't know what the deal is. I probably grabbed the wrong cable. I got to go through with cables.
Yeah, that's
so
the annoying
28
thing.
in, so just keep watching for questions. I'm still trying to work on this GoPro just in case I need it. Oh, but yeah. See, I made me a cool little toy today. Right there.
It's a push stick.
That's right. It's a 3/4 inch. It's a 3/4 inch thick laser cut push stick.
There you go.
All right. I don't guess that camera's going to work with me. I'm going to have to just let it be for a little bit. West Alabama, rainy and 40s. Yeah, it's a little nippy over here, West Alabama. I'm not far from you. Oh, there you go, Steve. There's your question. They're getting personal.
There's a question. What is my day job? So I am Director of IT Services and CIO for community college here in southern Minnesota. And I've worked at the college for over 20 years and still enjoy it, although it's completely changed from what I thought I was going to do when I went to school for information technology, but such is life.
Hey, we had a mouse in the Clack shack the other day, guys. I thought I was seeing things because I came in and I saw a little black streak across the floor, and I haven't seen a mouse in here in years. And I had to run to the hardware store. I came back and Callie had the mouse and she delivered it to me right outside the door as I was coming back. So just go ahead and mark that down as a win for the cats. Yeah, he's just a nerd, guys. He gets paid to be a nerd.
That's true. That is true.
He said, so this is your side hustle?
Yeah, yeah. This is still very much a side hustle. So
Yeah, it takes a while to spin it up into something that you can depend on, especially if you're like, like me and you both. I mean, our jobs actually has retirement and stuff like that, and it's hard to walk away from those things until you until you can get that check coming. Because I am within 5 years of being able to stay at home and get paid. So yeah, I think
so
you have to. I think you have to be a little bit of a nerd to play with lasers, guys. That's just my opinion. If you're not, you end up lost. All
Cindy
right.
has a question there about the 20 watt.
Yeah, just spotted it.
There you go. 20 watt on the non-watt Pro.
A loud pop. I haven't had a problem, I don't have the 20 watt non pro.
Um,
I don't know what piece she's talking about.
so
The loose
Cindy, is
piece
it that you
actually popped out.
you do you keep hearing a loud pop? Is it like consistent? Uh,
I think I
the
see
one
what
thing I
she's
can
saying. She's saying that the loose piece of the burn popped out. It's probably micro explosions.
possibly,
Yeah, because it says the
yeah,
loose piece actually popped out. So I think she means the work piece popped out.
well, if it's not that, I was going to suggest try setting up a job and running it with your laser power at zero, which would tell you if it's more of a mechanical thing that's going on. But if it's a piece, I mean, it could be, that extra module on their standard one does put a little extra. Um, it puts a little bit extra weight on the gantry and such, so those stepper motors and those belts do have to work a little bit harder. If one of them is loose, or if that timing rod between the two sides is, sometimes those set screws aren't quite tight all the way. It could be something around there that is has loosened up, and so I would start checking with your two side belts and that bar that goes across. Make sure that everything is still intact and tight there. Um, but yeah, if you can
Yeah,
run it with your set your job to no power, that would help you try to identify more of the mechanical without the laser firing.
yeah. She says yes. That is what I mean. I don't know if she's talking to me or she's talking to you. So I'm a little confused. But I will say this: if your honeycomb gets too dirty, or if you have too much of those gases getting trapped in your honeycomb, that the gases that come off of that wood, if there's a little spark, sometimes you'll get like a little miniature explosion. And with my way my downdraft table works, usually they're inside that chamber that's below it, and some of them can be pretty violent. But I don't know if that's what she's talking about, or she's talking about like a piece of her laser came off. But but yeah, it probably just needs a really good cleaning and get that sap out of there. If that's what you're talking about, it sounds like firecrackers going off underneath it, or it could just simply be a piece of wood that had tension in it. Okay, I think maybe I was right. Maybe that is
Yeah,
what it is.
yeah, and the other thing too is, if you don't have enough of an air gap underneath your honeycomb table, that's going to trap those gases too, even if it is clean. And a 20 watt is going to be more likely to set it off. So make sure you got it raised up just a little bit. Make sure you've got some air going on underneath there, and and hopefully that'll help exhaust those gases out so they don't get trapped in there. So
Yep. Yeah, mine. First time I heard that, I think it was with the 20 watt. I don't think I had that issue with the 10. And then right after I got the 20, I started having it. But then I changed my ventilation at my box and got rid of it. All right, here we go,
sure.
Vintauri. There's your one.
Yeah, glad that was helpful. So yes, I'm working on a new laser. I actually did a live stream of building the Jakota L1 laser early this week, and so I've been running some tests on it. And I figured I would uh, run through some of those tests, because that's a question I get a lot: is what settings should I use for this material or this laser and such, and it really is imperative to run those material tests. on any new material or even a new laser to really dial it in. So I did a quick video. I dropped it just before this live stream on using that tool in Lightburn. So hopefully it helps out and helps. It's less trial and error. Everybody hates wasting some material, but you got to have that sacrificial material, and you run that once or twice, and then you know what you need to be at rather than continually guessing on it.
Agreed. Whitwood. You're welcome there, Cindy. Like I said, can't make any guarantees. It's kind of hard for us to diagnose it without seeing it, but that's what it's either like Steve said. It's either going to be a mechanical issue, but if it sounds like it's coming below the laser, it's probably going to be those gases detonating on you. Did you do like a blueprint burn or something, Steve? Is he talking to you?
I have actually. I don't know if I've done a video on it. So I did one of the canvas engravings where I painted it white and then put blue on like a real royal blue, kind of like a blueprint paper, and then I etched out an airplane 3 view off of it. I need to get back to playing around with that canvas, and I know you've done some as well, to really play around with a couple of different ways. I want to do some things on that. But yeah, it can be fun. But definitely when you do that layered painting, a test burn will help you as well. But then you got to make sure you're consistently applying your paint the same way. Make sure that your settings match. So
yeah, canvas can be very challenging. Very challenging. All right, what else we got? Have either one of you engraved dog balls? Can't say I've done that one. I would think as long as they're stainless steel, it wouldn't be a problem. You would definitely, unless you could find one that you could put without putting into the rotary, you'd have to create a jig or something for that. What are your thoughts, Steve? I gotta get a battery from GoPro.
Yeah. You could, depending on the type of dog bowl, you could try to make a jig, but that, or if you have the chuck rotary like the RA2, and it has big enough chucks, or you could 3D print some. Also, Ortura just came out with their own chuck rotary as well, with a couple of neat features that look interesting. As long as that could grab the inside or the outside, it would help. Otherwise, you'd have to keep it small and put it stationary and just do it in a smaller spot. But those are often multiple, it's round and it's also usually tapered, so that adds kind of an extra complexity to it. You could try engraving the bottom of it, but I'm guessing you're wanting to engrave the side with the name and such.
Yeah, that'd be kind of hard to see, Steve.
Yeah. That's how it's like the cat. You engrave the bottom of the cat's food bowl and says, now it's really empty, instead of them complaining when they've had 3 pieces and think it's empty.
Yeah. Cutting 3/16 plywood in the first sheet. The pattern cut perfectly. The second sheet with that burn. You want to take that, Steve, or you want me to answer it? I know you know it as well as I do.
A couple different things could be going on. Luan plywood can be hit or miss depending on the layers and the glue that's in there. So that can be an issue. Secondly, the plywood can be very smoky. So if you've got residue that's on either your focus lens, or if you've got a cover lens on a lot of them, that may have gotten a lot of soot on there, and then that's reduced the power of your laser. So first thing I would do is just get some pure alcohol, like 99% isopropyl alcohol, get it on a small swab, clean out that lens, see if that does it. Secondly, I would, as your testing material, it's good to actually, if you're having problems like that, try to cut some with whatever saw you got. Take a look at it, see if you can see some extra gaps or extra chunks of glue. That's going to give you a little insight to the material you're using as well. And then when you find a good one, talk to your store and your distributor and say, hey, I want a lot of this. So
Yeah, I'll say, because I use a lot of the Luon. If there's a knot or if there's a crack that they patched with that, I don't know what they use to patch that stuff with. It's not going to burn as good as the rest of the wood. I did go this weekend and picked up a bunch of different materials. I've got some. I bought some 1/4 inch birch because I hear everybody talking about they can't cut 1/4 inch birch. So I've got some 1/4 inch birch over there, and I've got a few other projects that I'm gonna be doing this week sometime if I get a chance. So I got some glass, pepper shakers, salt shakers, tile. I got some more slate. I just grabbed me some things that I could have some projects to play around with. Okay, what was he saying here? I just saw my name. Oh, well, thanks. I appreciate you. That's what me and Steve, like I said, guys. That's. I mean, we both enjoy doing this, and it is fun, and I like making things. Like I said, just made myself a little push stick out of some scrap wood earlier, because I keep finding ways that the laser uh, can help me around the shop do other things other than just engraving and making cute stuff. But like the channels, subscribe, do whatever you can, because that does help us gain a little momentum. It helps, like when I go to buy a bunch of materials to do videos with or whatever. It kind of helps justify that, because if I'm making a video for 3 people, it's really not worth it to spend $40 on materials. Yeah, that's a good question, Steve, since you brought that up.
It does come with 2 adapter cables that I've seen that should help you adapt to your various lasers. So there again, you just kind of got to have to look at the pinout, look at the adapters. It's very similar to the RA2 where they gave a couple adapters, but I think the price is $180 or so. So it's cheaper. One of the nice things I saw on it is that you can actually rotate it on end, rather than having to unbolt it and flip it around. And so it looks like a lot easier to convert it around to the different configurations. So I don't know. We'll see. I like my RA2. I don't use it a ton, but if I had the opportunity to test that one out, I can see where I'd really like that one. Just from the lack of having to swap around.
I will say from this, because I got the LM3 and the X tool, the plug on the O'Toole is different than the plug on the X tool. But now I bought a Diwali that has a bunch of different cables that came with it, and the Comgrow that had several cables that came with it. And you can play musical cables and make it work, but if you use the wrong cables, it'll go backwards. So you got to make sure you use the right cable.
Yeah, and so that's where O'Toole gives you the two adapters. There's like an A and a B one, so it goes from their funky plug to more of a typical 4-pin plug.
I guess that's for you and your blueprints or whatever that you do.
Yeah, patent drawings are fun to play with, and as a matter of fact, they are not copyright, so they're public domain. They're just a little tricky to search through, but yeah, if you do a search for patent drawing illustrations or whatever, you can find a lot of really cool artwork to be able to engrave, and you don't have to worry about licensing and such on there. I gotta double check this.
Yeah, now that I know that O'Toole is making a chuck like that, I might have to look into that, because I've kicked the idea around about getting the RA2, but I just don't like plugging and unplugging that thing. I think which on that topic, before I forget about it, hang on. Guys, I am in the shack, by the way. I'm playing with some software, but this is where I am. I'm just playing with some software to kind of, maybe get a less distracting background. But give me just a second. I got something I got to show you guys. All right. The full disclaimer, I haven't tried this out yet, but got this sent to me in the mail, and it's from Ronnie Shriver, and he may be in here. I think he's the one that asked for the P.O. box the other day, Steve. But he has made, and I haven't tried it yet. Now, Ronnie assures me that he's tested it and it works. But Ronnie has created let me get it out of here. He bubble wrapped it really good. He doesn't trust the postal workers, I guess. But he's created this little guy, and
Mm.
it's for the X tool. And of course, he sends you some, little strip adhesive to use to put it on there. And knowing me, I'll wind up, making a box for it or something too. But it comes with these two cables, and then basically this allows you to plug one cable into this board and into the machine, and then you have these other plugs that you can plug your rotary into, and you just flip the switch to avoid having to plug and unplug directly into that motherboard. So I think it's a good idea. I haven't tested it yet. I've been busy doing other stuff, and I hadn't really, to be honest with you, I got to break my machine down and put a rotary on it. But I'm looking forward to trying it. I don't know if, like I said, I know his name, and if he's in here, he could probably tell you about it. But it's Ronnie Schreiber, and apparently he's from, I'm guessing that's Michigan. MI is Michigan, right, guys? Oh, my teachers would be doing backflips right now. But I think I'm right. But anyway, it looks like an interesting build. He definitely is gonna. It's more. It qualifies as a clactical creation. So I'm looking forward to trying it. I just haven't had a chance yet. I brought it out here and tried talking to my brother and to let me make a couple tumblers for him, and he didn't want them. So we built stove covers instead. And as soon as I can get around to putting the rotary on the X tool, I'm probably going to use it on the 10 watt because that's what I normally do my tumblers with. But I'll do a video and let you guys know how it works out because he sent me that, just want me to try it out. And like I said, it sounds like something that would come in handy for a lot of people. So just throwing that out there for you. Dottie, what's Dottie got there? Yeah, Norbert, I saw an email that you sent me the other day of some engraves you done. Look pretty cool. I've got to create. I'm thinking of what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a Facebook group so that you guys can put those pictures in the group and not necessarily have to try to email them or whatever. We can just kind of share them with everybody. So hopefully that'll be coming before long. Me and Steve might can get together and come up with something that we can work. But I don't know that I want to be administrating a whole bunch of pages though. See ya, Aaron. Take it easy, man.
So you've done more of those stainless tumblers, right? You did a whole video on that recently, with and without the Surmark, right?
Yeah, matter of fact, this is one of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've lost count, but I know I've done several orders of 40, a couple of orders of 60, and then no telling how many just like 2 or 3 here, 2 or 3 there's. I've done several hundred tumblers since I've had my X
So
tool.
so you might have some settings for Dottie to at least get in the ballpark with then with her 20 watt.
Stainless steel for the first time. Are you wanting to use spray, Dottie, or not? Or are these coated tumblers, or are they not coated? I need to put that back up there where I can read it a little better. If they're coated, I will tell you, I've got multiple videos on coated tumblers. I do it with a 10 watt typically. The 20, I haven't, like I said, I usually use my 10 on tumblers. But on the 20, I would say probably 100% output. I would probably start at about maybe 90 speed. You could probably get away with 100 on black. Surmark, well, if you're using Surmark, let me see what my settings are here. Well, hang on. I'm going to have to go over to my other machine. Let me see if I've done Surmark with a 20. Let me check my list here. 20 watt power. No, I have not done Surmark with it because I always do it with my 20 watt or my 10 watt. Basically, it's going to be the same settings as you use to get powder coat off of something is what I've had the best results with Surmark. I use 100 millimeters, 100% power, and 80 millimeters a second on my 10 watt. So I guess I'm just going to do a video, Steve. because I've got plenty of practice cups. I hate to tell her wrong, but I haven't used my 20 for tumblers because my 10 is just, it's not in an enclosure and it's just so much more convenient. Well, I mean, there's always the possibility. How much time we got left in this live? there's always that. I mean, I got some stainless, I got some Surmark. We can fire it up right quick and see. But I don't know about the tumblers. What kind? The type of tumblers is going to matter too. But let me see what I got in the way of stainless. Control this for me while I'm doing that, Steve. Let me just see.
So earlier, Brian asked thoughts on the Comgrow Z1 10 watt by the Air Assist versus the Atzer P10 with Air Assist versus an Atom X20 Pro with Air. Is more money worth it for these options? Now, the Comgrow Z1, depending on when and where you get it, they have been sometimes coming with the Air Assist cone on them now. So that might not be something you have to buy. Either way, I would strongly recommend any laser you get, make sure it has an Air Assist, hopefully included, if not an option to have it. The biggest thing I would say is if you can upgrade to 20 watts without breaking the bank, I think you're going to find that well worth it. 10 watts can do a lot. They can definitely cut through a fair amount of material, but the 20 watts definitely do make a big difference in your speed and the consistency of those cuts, and maybe a little bit more thickness, not always. But so yes, more money is worth it if you're maybe gaining features or power. But if all other things are consistent, I would definitely go with whatever the best deal is, / whatever one you feel you're going to get the best support on.
Well, I don't have any flat stainless. This is the biggest piece of stainless I got laying around. And I don't know that it's even the right grade stainless. I have marked it before, but I'll try to get a video together, Dottie, but I'm going to have to take the machine out and put the legs on it and all that, set the rotary up to be able to do a tub. I've got some tumblers, but I don't have any flat stainless anywhere in the shop.
So if you have a hardware store near you, check and see if they have stainless steel outlet covers. A lot of times they'll have blanks there, and those can make some inexpensive test material on stainless steel. So that might be a way to at least test your Surmark on some stainless steel on a less expensive piece than your actual tumblers. Get you at least in the ballpark with them.
Trying to think about what I might have around here that's stainless. Everything I found is aluminum, so I don't have any stainless. I can stick to the 20 right now.
Got a couple sheets.
You got a 20 watt? Throw some Surmark on it and see what it does.
My friend's got my 20 watt module right now. I'd have to fire up the Atom stack or something.
If you want to stain your project, do you stain it first or engrave first? I recommend engraving first. You're gonna get however many people you ask that question, you're gonna get just as many answers. And the reason I say that is because certain stains contain mineral spirits and that type of thing that are flammable, and soaking your project in a flammable substance before engraving is not really a good idea. Now, if you stain it like 2 weeks before, you'll probably be okay. But either way, if you stain it before or after, if you stain it before, when you engrave it, there's a chance that the wood's going to be lighter in the engrave than it is on the stain. So I always do the engrave first, then stain, which I don't do very many already finished products unless it's something somebody brings me. But normally I sand those down to start over anyway, unless it's like a gun stock, and then I try to avoid sanding that down because that can get tricky.
Yeah, you also have to consider your cleanup after the engrave. If it's already stained, you have fewer options.
Yeah.
So,
not to mention the fumes and the sticky mess that could get on your laser head.
Mm-hmm.
So I would go with burn first, then stain. my opinion.
Yeah, Norbert mentions going to Goodwill, buy a few stainless tumblers for testing. Every so often, you can find them cheap, like $5 or $7 at Harbor Freight. If you got one near you, they've got stainless steel tumblers as well. I've picked up a few of those for test subjects and such. So
Yeah, this you can also this was actually a oops. Well, hang on. This one was actually a oops here, and I sanded it down. And if you have if you have to make you a little chuck kind of to put them on, and you can put them on your DeWalt drill and spin them with some sandpaper, and they sand out really nicely. But I just sand them down and start over. You can do that a few times. Infrared laser. You've tried it, haven't you, Steve? I haven't tried that thing.
nope. No, the only the big benefit to that is if you're working with metal, it gives you a few more options to actually work on other metals. But it's a lot slower than your tip. You know, if someone's doing a lot of metal, they're going to be working with fiber lasers generally. So as far as competing on time and price, that's going to be difficult. But they definitely, I mean, it's the right tool for the job if you're wanting to work with metal versus wood. It's not going to help you out with acrylic in any way. That's where you got to get into CO2. So.
Okay, I actually have a demonstration sitting right here on the table for this for this question, and there it is. Well, hang on, I got to turn that off. That is being weird. All right, let me turn that off. All right, here we go. There you go. The one on the lighter colored one that is running shop air in my 20-watt X tool. This guy here, that's the 20-watt X tool running shop air. I did nothing to that burn except just take it out of the material. This is the Diwali on the, oh, there we go. This is the Diwali on the Otour LM3 and the Comgrow hybrid. And you can see there's a little bit more blackening. This thing just runs standard like compressor pressures like typically come with your laser engravers, and this one's running shop air, and I'm running I'd say probably about 6 psi, but it's a solid continual 6 psi. It's not one of those fish tank pumps. So in my opinion, you get a cleaner cut with a little bit more air pressure, but you don't want to go too high, because you go too high and it's just ridiculous to try to do leather and lighter materials. But mine has a little ball valve on there that I can adjust it with. But if you're going with a 20-watt, I'm gonna be honest with you, I don't think the air assists that were made for the 10s that everybody's still using, I don't think that's adequate. I think for the 20s you need a little more air pressure. I'm about to run me another regulator over to my other enclosure since I've upgraded that from a 10-watt to a 20. The cuts aren't as clean as I'd like them, and I think it's the air, because I've run me an extension line from the Mon port over to it, and it cuts a lot better when I put it on shop air as opposed to the pumps. And I've tried X-Tools pump, I've tried Comgrow's pump, and I've got a Diwali pump on there now. The Diwali does better, I think, but it still doesn't compare to my shop air for thick cuts. Now this is an insanely thick cut for a diode laser, but you can do it. So infrared mod.
Yeah, I've heard them all over the place, and it really comes down to more the airflow at the nozzle. On my CO2, I find 20 to 30 is great, but I was talking to a friend. He's picked up a Niji XL3, and that has a really tiny air hose on it. He said it's something like a 3 millimeter hose, and he had to crank it up on his compressor to about 60 psi before he was getting just nice caramelized cuts. But that was just to push the air through that small hose. So yeah, he's looking at swapping out the air hose or something a little bit bigger, get a little more air volume through there, not so much pressure. But yeah.
Well, All I know is the little gauges that are on the regulators that I bought aren't that great. I usually just do it by feel, and then I'll play with the cut. I'll set me up like a bunch of little circles, and I'll just sit there and turn the regulator up, turn it up, and turn it up, and kind of keep track of how many clicks I went. And then when I find the sweet spot, I push that regulator in and lock it. So I really can't tell you what I'm running, but it's less than 10 psi because it's not registered 10 on the scale. But I'm running that 1/4 inch snap together hose also. Mark, water straight. I'm getting behind.
So, Brian, yeah, 30 liters per minute is usually considered kind of your baseline. When you get into some of the 20 watts, I see them preferring closer to 60 liters per minute. So, I would say that's probably the minimum you would want to go.
Well, hello there, Hitlock. I'm probably butchering that name. But yeah, like I said, air to me, I think the air assist depends a lot on how thick you're cutting. I don't think you need as much when you're just barely cutting thinner material, except to keep those nice clean edges. Like I said, I mean, I was really impressed with. I mean, this is almost a 3/4 inch burn, and there's no soot whatsoever. But now I ran full air and I cheated the focus down like 3 millimeters. But air assist is a game changer. And people ask me all the time, is it really necessary? And I'm like, in my opinion, yes. I know not everybody believes in it. And I didn't, to be honest with you, until I got one, and then I was sold. You have a lot less issues with fire too.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Everybody's getting quiet. It's only 37 minutes in. All right, Steve, sing for us or something.
Sing? No, not going to sing.
Oh, why not, guy? So I can't believe, Steve, I sat here for 10 minutes with my meal in the background like this, and not the first person noticed it. See, that's my sawmill, guys. That's up on the hill. That's where all my specialty wood comes from. But yeah, I can't believe nobody noticed that. Yeah, Norbert, air assist. I think that's one reason my machines have lasted as long as they have, and I think Steve would second that. It does keep the machines a lot cleaner, which I need to spend the day cleaning mine. And a lot of people are asking about how to clean this ComGrow 20 watts. So I guess I'm gonna bite the bullet and disassemble it and try to do a video on it on how I clean it. May not be the manufacturer approved, but it's how I'll do it. All right, what we got there? I'll let you answer that one, Steve. I'm not familiar with granite.
So I've messed around with some tile on my CO2 laser. I would definitely say if you're wanting to get into various stones like that, a CO2 is probably going to give you more regular results without, if you're working with the diode, it's going to be highly based on the color and how opaque it is, whether it's a polished or not. Whereas the CO2 is going to react with it pretty much consistently. So as far as a lower budget, that's going to depend on the size project you're wanting to work with, because the CO2s get kind of expensive pretty fast to get to a larger size, whereas the diodes, you have an open frame, you got a little bit bigger platform to start with. But yes, it's possible. You can engrave a lot of stone with a diode laser as long as it's more opaque and a darker color. But if you're going to get into the lighter colors, or if they're more of a polished stone, anything reflective is going to be giving you some issues with those. So, it's going to come down to size at that point with CO2 and what your budget is. When I started getting into lasers 7-8 years ago, I was looking at just the small K40s and realized that wasn't going to be big enough and it needed a lot of upgrades. So then I jumped up to I think it was a 15 by 24 size. And I realized if I just saved up another $1,000, I could jump into that 27 by 18. And that's kind of where it put at. It was my budget and how big of a machine I could get, because there is a limit to it. You can get too big where you're introducing problems, you're not using it, but you generally don't complain that your lasers, it's more often than you're complaining that your project doesn't quite fit into it versus I've got too much space. So.
Yeah, that's one thing that I would say that I would like to get me a bigger CO2 one day, but if they keep going with the diodes, I don't know. I may have to just stick with the diode if it keeps it up, because I'm really, really thinking that I may wind up spreading my 20 watt, putting the extension on my 20 watt Pro. I just don't know if I want to spend that money right now. Any issues with Windows resetting light burn? I haven't had any. What Windows is running?
The only thing I can think of is if it did the Windows 10 to Windows 11 upgrade, I could see that messing with files. Generally, your normal Windows updates that are just security updates and same version updates don't. But I know, and this is my IT side sneaking out on me, Microsoft liked sneaking in upgrading some people from Windows 10 to 11 without them aware of it, and that can be a headache. That can create some issues like that. So I have seen some other issues with Lightburn, and you even mentioned it, I think, where they kind of mucked up the tool framing option, the tool layer framing.
It's still messed up on mine.
Yeah. So I've seen more of where it's Lightburn specific with those updates, but I haven't had any issues with Windows updates on mine. But I would check to see if you had a major version upgrade on Windows, and that may have done some things. And that's just one thing. I think you were talking earlier about maybe it messed up some of your libraries. I've learned this lesson, and friends have learned this lesson. When you start gathering all that data, back it up. Use the export tools, put it out in the cloud, put it on a flash drive, do something to where you have a backup to it. It's too easy to get complacent, and then you kind of run into these issues where you've lost a lot of work. So, yeah.
All right. Any tips for larger laminated products using print cut? Yeah. I will tell you this. It's very complicated. I just walked a buddy of mine through. He's got one of my smaller machines, and he was doing a sign that was larger. The thing that you're going to want to do is go ahead and you're going to have to establish the size of your workspace and the size of the engrave. And then basically you're going to go through there, and it's a pain. If you can avoid it, don't do it. But you're going to have to put lines on there. You're going to have to build yourself a grid with known measurements. You're going to have to begin from current location, aim that at that little point of origin that you've scribed onto your material, and then you're going to have to load the appropriate file. There is so many moving parts that I almost guarantee you're going to have some mistakes in it. I've done it a few times, and I think I'm running about a 50% effective on the first try. And it's usually because you forget to click something, or you forget to turn this layer off or turn that layer off. And it's going to be a headache. That's the only reason I have considered extending my 20 watt, is so that if I did have a big job like that, I could do it all in one pass and not have to cut it up into pieces. Because getting everything lined up, you need to, you always heard measure twice, cut once. Measure 8 times and burn once, because I'm telling you, it is a pain when you start splitting those engraves like that. So have you tried it yet?
You know what I was just going to say is, at minimum, if you can set up some sort of jig that you can align your sign to, as well as your laser, at least on one side, so that you can slide it along and know that axis stays square in one plane. That's going to help you a lot. At least get one side, one axis square and lined up. Then it's just more of moving it in that one direction to try to line up your points. When I do tiling on the CNC router, usually you have pins that you reference. So you'll have your materials larger than your object, and you have pins that are marked, and those kind of self-align to the wasteboard. So anything you can do to at least lock in one dimension is going to help you out a lot.
Yeah, I use these guys, and what I do is I just take my jig and I take blue tape it together, and that allows me to put this against a straight edge, clamp it to the material, and you can slide it all the way from one end of the material to the other. But you're basically going to have to build reference points into your engrave, and and then when you get through, it's a whole process. One of these days, I may do a video on it. But yeah, I've got a straight edge that you can clamp to I think it's 8 foot long, and then you can just use this to slide around. And as long as you put those timing marks in your engraved where you know where they are, you can line everything back up. But it's a pain. Let's see. Oh Lord. Okay, I hope that's not a bad thing, Gary. I hope you're not here mad about it. But I'm happy with mine, and I know there's some people that aren't, but cool. Well, I hope you enjoy it. Yeah, I haven't pulled the trigger on the extension kit, guys, but there you go. I think you did a puzzle, didn't you?
I did a puzzle. I did not deal with kerf in that one because in my tests with it, having the loose kerf on it was just enough to allow some play for the puzzle pieces to go together easily, versus being like a tight, snug press fit. Now, when you're dealing with inlays, you definitely want that tight fit. So it's been a while. It's actually kind of on my list of things to do as a video on adjusting for kerf, and so it's on my list. I don't have one out yet, but yeah, on puzzles I wouldn't worry about it so much, but on inlays for sure, you want to play around with that and get that dialed in.
All right, Wild River. I'm guessing you were doing it on grayscale, if I were guessing, because I've run my 20 watt on grayscale, and I think everybody's does that. If you try to do an image, especially if the speeds are on up there a little bit. So I've had better luck if you do it like a dithered. But the only thing I can know, all I know to tell you is check your white space scan too, and because mine does it as well. But it's not just the X tool. There you go.
These are the four modes I recommend using and I test. And actually, that was just what I ran on this machine. Grayscale really messes with the lasers. So yeah, if you did it on that, but otherwise, yeah, like you were saying, check your white space scan if you've got gaps there and it's jumping around. The other thing to do is, you say it's your second time running it, double check your belt tensions, because you get at the higher speeds, that's where you're going to start notice those things skipping and chattering. So.
Yeah, I think he's got a belt issue because he said his jumping teeth on him down below. So, yeah, you may want to tighten your belts, because I use flood fill all the time. You shouldn't be slipping teeth doing flood fill unless you're just running insane speeds. I use 16 by 16 sheets, but some of the files I have built to accommodate 12-inch material. I recommend 16 by 16. Some of them you can squeeze onto a 14. Yeah, Castro answered that for you. Appreciate it, guys. Way looking out. Steve, there's one for you in your enclosure.
Yes, I do have. Well, let me see if I can show it. There we go.
While he's doing that, good evening, Tiny.
So I have these side slots that are about 12 inches wide, and it's at the same level as my honeycomb bed, so I can actually slide material wider through, and it'll stay at the same level. But I figured I wouldn't be doing anything deeper than 12 inches. So I mean, obviously you could make this the full width of it and have that. But yes, I included that for that very purpose, so that I could still have the benefits of the enclosure, but not restrict my ability to run some wider material through it.
Yeah, and Steve will sell you the blueprints to that enclosure if you're interested. Gio, who was it asking me about that? Beaver Creek. What dryer are you using on your air compressor? It's Amazon. That's all I can tell you. I've got the one that's at the compressor itself, the Ingersoll Rand or whatever, and then I've got another little cheap one over here. I'll try to find. Let me go to my Amazon and look at my orders. But it's an Amazon as cheap as I could find that would work. But I will tell you, it does remove moisture. I'm not going to guarantee you that it gets all of it, but I do have to drain them periodically because they do start accumulating moisture. So now the first one that I purchased actually came with a oiler on it also, but I didn't notice it was on there when I ordered it to start with. But I went back the second time and I ordered one that did not have it. So let me find that order. There we go.
Yeah, on most of mine, I'm using a fairly inexpensive moisture trap.
Yeah, this thing's $21.69. It comes with a regulator, a dehumidifier, and a valve, and it's $21.69 on Amazon Prime. So, I've got two of them. I got one on the Monport, and I got one on my 20-watt. So there's the link to it right there. Now, like I said, it is cheap, and the gauge it's useless, but for $20-something, it works. Oh, I just lost chat comments for some reason. I'm guessing they're still coming in, but I had to refresh.
Yeah, we've got some. Does brand matter on CO2 lasers? What brands are good to get into the market right now? And if you order online, do they replace defects? So yes, brand does matter. You can go anywhere from no-name eBay reseller on up to what I would consider the top of the line is going to be something like Trotec, which are actually made on Austria. And you're going to pay for that. There are some resellers within the U.S. like OhmTech and Monport that they do a better job of trying to have some quality control, have some U.S.-based support. So those are some things that might matter to you if you're in the U.S. But that being said, even when I bought my eBay laser, I did have an issue with one of the inductive limit switches went out within probably a month. I did reach out to the reseller. They eventually got in touch with the manufacturer, and they sent one to me. That whole process took probably 8 to 12 weeks. Well, I went on Amazon and bought the $8 part myself, and now I just have an extra spare. So it more comes up when you're looking at the components and such. There's different brands of tubes that are going to have better quality and more longevity to them. Recce or RECI is one of the more popular ones that tend to be more consistent, tend to be more reliable. But that being said, you can get a lot out of an inexpensive thing if you're willing to tinker, or you could be really frustrated with an expensive one if you have no idea what you're doing. So
yeah,
basically, if you want support, you're going to pay for it.
Yeah, most of the companies that support is definitely an issue. If you need it, you're better off if you don't need support. If you're a little more nerdy like Steve, and you can just figure it out. But Sharon's asking, can you use a heat press to straighten warped pieces of plywood, or would glue be an issue? I've never had experience with a heat press, but I can tell you from a sawmill perspective and from just general wood perspective, it's going to be hard to get it out. Once it warps like that, it's going to be hard to get it out. The best thing that I could recommend for you is if you're having a problem with your wood warping like that. I don't know if you're using 12 by 12, 14 by 14, 16 by 16 sheets. You're going to want to stack that stuff to where it's either under pressure or restrained. And by that I mean either stack it all like together and then take you like a piece of like 3/4 inch plywood or 3/4 inch MDF or something and put on top of it and weight it to hold pressure on it to keep the wood from being able to warp. Or if in extreme cases, you can do kind of like what I do in the kiln, and you can stack it and then use like I said, something that's really flat, really straight, like a piece of 3/4 inch plywood or something, and take ratchet straps and ratchet strap it, and that'll over time that may alleviate some of that warping. But what's happening is the wood, as it dries, is probably wet when you got it, and as it dries, when those fibers start to contract, it's going to make the edges come up. So if you restrain it as it's drying, typically you avoid that. But if it's allowed, like if it's just sitting on the tabletop, then it's gonna move. I had 2 stove covers that I made that apparently Home Depot sold me wet wood and bull didn't catch it, and yeah, had to redo 2 of them. Clack Shack support program.
It's much more of a moisture issue. So, if you can wet the wood and then hold it in place, weight it down, then you can sometimes get it back out. Or if you want to add a curve to a piece of wood, you can do the same thing. You wet it down, you let those fibers loosen up, you wrap it around something round, it'll start holding that shape. So, yeah, it's much more of a moisture thing. Heat can accelerate the process, but it's really more about the moisture.
Yeah, I was gonna say now, if you can steam it or if you could spritz it with some water maybe and then put it in a heat press, that might be effective at getting it back limber. But then you're going to need to flatten it out and keep it that way until it dries again. Mm-hmm. But yeah, moisture plays havoc on wood, no doubt.
Yeah, Brian's right there. Clack Shack support program. It's that's what a lot of us have grown up on is relying on other people in the communities, and that's one reason that we like doing this, is helping other people get over those hurdles and such. So
yeah, one thing, if you're going to be doing a lot of woodworking too, let me show you. This is just a tip, and I'll go ahead and I've got a video that's going to be coming out that hasn't yet, but if you're doing woodworking, you're going to need hang on, one of these. One of these guys here. This is my more expensive one right here. This is my FLIR, and this is how I determine when wood is wet or when it is not. But I got one of these sent to me to try out, and so far for $20, it's hard to beat. It's running neck to neck as far as accuracy with my $100 and something one. So I'm prepared to do a video with it, but it's just like a laser or anything else. I want to use it and get comfortable with it before I do the video. So I've been playing with it, and I've been checking wood. So we'll just save that for the video. But yeah, get you one of those if you're going to be playing with wood a lot. It'll tell you whether it needs to be dried before you use it or whether you can go ahead and use it or not. What kind of kiln do I have? Well, I have a clactical kiln. That's the only way I know to describe that. It is built from wood off of my sawmill. I milled every piece of wood that is on it. It uses 4 brooder lamps as a means of heat, and has a dehumidifier and 2 24-inch fans inside it. So it's a beast. But I've got videos on it. Brake rotors. Wait, that's a good idea. If you have brake rotors. If you don't, you could go and buy some like weights, like exercise weights would work.
Borrow them off your neighbor's car.
Yeah. Under pressure here. Good evening, Super Duty Jeff, the traveling man with the really cool RV I'd like to have. You guys are great, very helpful and fun. Well, I don't know how much fun Steve is. But, I consider myself to be fun. All right, here's a video for the key on whoever
funny.
that was who's asking. Yeah. There's a video on my Keon if you want to click that and watch it in a minute. Just kind of save that in the tab or whatever. But that just kind of show you what it is. But I've got some other videos about, if you go through my sawmilling videos, you can see the Keon. But it's an energy hog. It is not eco-friendly. I insulated it, put 2 layers of vapor barrier in it, and it still cost me about $5 a day to run that thing. But it dries wood. I can dry oak in like 3 or 4 weeks now. Black walnut. All right, what else we got? 30 pairs. See, look. There you go. Weightlifting weights. I don't see any more questions that we missed. Anybody whose question got missed that's still sitting here. We're getting close to having to shut this down. So if we overlooked you, we're not trying to be rude. So please put your comment, question, concern, crack it, Steve, whatever you got. Just go ahead and throw it at us now. He started this, guys, just for the record. I don't remember what it was he said, but early on he got me pretty good. I think it was before we went live. He started cracking on me. So he's in a good mood tonight. So I figured I'd pick on him.
You were testing your microphone and your headset, and you said, "Oh wait, now I can hear myself." And I said, "I know how painful that is."
Oh yeah, that's what it was. I knew you got on me first, so I didn't want people to think, "Oh, he's picking on Steve." But no, he started it. Adam Stack XT20. Okay, hang on. Let me get this over here where I can read it a little better. Are you using a tool line? Because if you're using a tool line in Lightburn, and that's all you got in the workspace, it's probably not going to frame it, because I've been having that problem with my Lightburn.
So is this the first time it starts up, and do you have multiple machines in your profile? Because I've seen that where Windows recognizes it, the machine's on, but it's on the wrong COM port, and so it's engaged, but nothing's going to it. So if you're not getting anything else from it, that's something to check. But it definitely sounds like some sort of communication issue.
Yeah, if it's sporadic, that's what I would say. I don't. It's going to be you're losing connection, or something's going to sleep, or something's happening. What is the best way to hold up a drag chain? Seems to be drooping. Now, are you talking about a drag chain or the actual just the cables? Because a drag chain is like a plastic chain that goes on there. I don't know what would be causing that. Which one? Did he say it was an Adam Stack? Yeah, he said it was an Adam Stack 20. That's what you've got, isn't it? X20?
Yeah, they have a couple different versions. There's the A and the X, but they're fairly similar. Maybe check your console in Lightburn to see if it's waiting for something. I've seen it hang up there as well. If something interrupts the job and it doesn't quite finish what it's doing, sometimes that gets hung up. And unfortunately, sometimes it's just rebooting Lightburn. But otherwise, just make sure it's addressing the right laser. If you've got multiples, I don't know. It's one of those things. It could be a handful of things, and you got to start checking them off. If it's start console, 0 seconds. It sounds to me like it's trying to communicate, but it might not be.
Baud rate,
might be worth checking. What's that?
Could it be a baud rate issue? Could the baud rate be set inappropriately?
Yeah, it could be something.
Timing out or something?
Yeah. You did. I was going to say, did you try a different USB cable? You did say change the USB cable. So, Yeah, I would double check all the settings on the COM port as far as baud rate and such. Make sure those are up high enough, and that it's not somehow jumping between the two profiles.
But yeah. Oh, who was this? It was somebody else was asking. She's talking about the drag chain. If you've actually put a drag chain on there and you're saying it's sagging toward the other end, the only thing that I can think of would be maybe to make yourself like some little risers to hold the drag chain. If you're saying that it's drooping in the middle and it's actual drag chain, uh, you could either make some out of wood or 3D print them, or I think they sell those too, don't they? Like where you can screw them to your work table or
Yeah,
whatever,
yeah.
like
3D
little
printing would
bridges.
take a while. You could usually you'll 3D print like just the adapter that goes on the end, but then you'll buy the whole drag chain.
No, I'm
They
talking
make
about the
various different
just
sizes.
the
Such.
holders. No, I'm talking about the holders to
Oh,
hold it up. She said it's sagging in the middle.
oh yeah, yeah. Yeah, you could make little clips. Like on my CNC machine, I've used angle iron and such, so you could maybe use. I like to use those. What is it? Those 3M sticky the double sided sticky things that release. I'm drawing a blank on their name right now, but those work well to attach things that need to stay but not be 100% permanent.
This guy's trying to kiss up. He said he didn't think I was 25 years old. He's just trying to score some points. Actually, yeah, I've almost got a kid 25 years old. So, but no, and unlike Steve, and I know I do crack on Steve. I'm not. I don't do IT. But many of you may know I did do computer, and I still do computer forensics, cell phone forensics, any kind of internet investigations, cell phone investigations, identity theft investigations, that type of thing. So even though I'm not quite the mega nerd that Steve is, I do have some computer skills and some computer knowledge. Most of mine, of course, is in hardware because with computer forensics, that's what you deal with a lot. Or if you're trying to, pull a black box out of a BMW and, export data from that. So you get into cables and gear. But no, I appreciate it there, Johnny. And, thumbs up for saying that I don't look 25, but you need to get your eyes checked, man. I'm sorry. But I appreciate it anyway.
You got to remember they moved me into management, so obviously I'm not as good of a geek and a nerd as my staff are.
They said, hey, go manage the budget. Well, that's kind of what they did with me
Yeah,
now. But
yeah. Command strips is what I was thinking about. Although Mark said that he hasn't had as good of luck with that. Yeah, it really kind of depends on the surface and material, the environment, and such. If you really want the 3M high bond stuff, if you want it to stick and probably not move, that would work. But um, all depends on how worried you are about compromising any warranty you have left.
this guy says he was probably programming computers before either one of us was born. If you were doing it on a tape, sir. You were doing it on a tape.
Punch cards,
Yeah,
the old
but that's very likely. Oh,
ES 9000 mainframes, tapes, and punch
I was born
cards.
in 1975. So if he was doing computer programming in 75, he was working with Steve Jobs or somebody back in the early days. All right. I guess that's going to be about it, guys. We've actually ran over, but I was having such a good time. Punch paper tape. Oh yeah. Well, if you programmed on punch paper tape, yeah, that's you were one of the pioneers, sir. I found one of the ones that used the reels, the tapes, and I was like, yeah, yeah. Well, now I am a little younger than you there, Super Duty, but I don't think I qualify as youngin' yet. Not yet. But yeah, but we're gonna wrap it up, guys. I know. Well, Steve's in his basement today, so he's nice and toasty. But it's getting a little cool out here now. I hope everything was enjoyable, informative, humorous. Whatever. Uh, we try to answer questions. We try to help y'all out and do what we can. And I enjoy it. It's fun. It's kind of like hanging out with your buddies because I spend so much time out here in the shop by myself. It's good to have company every now and then. So, but I appreciate y'all coming, and I'll let Steve say his piece there as we exit.
Hopefully we got to most everybody's questions. If we missed them, after we close the live, the regular comments hit the videos, and go ahead and put them in there. Both Clack and I like to follow up with those, make sure we get them, and or maybe it's something we can talk about next week as well. So appreciate you all stopping by, hanging out with us, bringing your questions and comments and computer nostalgia, and we'll see you again next week.
Yeah, and if you hadn't already, guys, go ahead and hit that subscribe button for myself, Vintauri, whichever one of us you hadn't, included. And don't forget about the Facebook pages. I will be, and I think I'll talk to Steve about it, but I think that's something that we ought to do too, is create like a Facebook group for everybody to kind of get in and, y'all can show your projects off without having to send them pictures to me and me having to put them on something, because I do, believe it or not, get a lot of email, a lot of messages, and it's hard to keep up sometimes. So if you ever send me anything, don't think I'm trying to leave you out. I just busy fella here. So if we do a page, then everybody can contribute and put pictures on there and all that. I will need some of you to volunteer to help kind of manage it, because me and Steve probably don't want to have to manage it. So if that's something y'all are interested in, we'll do it. I guess there's 3 or 4 people saying they want it, so I guess we'll work on getting that done. And
right.
like I said, that way some of you guys can step up and help us manage it and make sure it doesn't turn into a bunch of trash in there. People just trying to pick fights or whatnot. So, but anyway, until next time, guys, hit the subscribe buttons and we'll catch you next Sunday. Good night.
We'll see you.